from gut issues, bloating, cramping, pain in your belly, even diarrhea, especially half an hour to an hour after eating, if you suffer from any of these gut problems, then this video is for you, because I'm going to talk about a specific ingredient that is increasingly common in different packaged foods that may be contributing to a lot of people's gut problems, especially in people who are diabetic. Before we get into it, I'm Dr. Amina Goodwin, a physician and a health coach, and I help you get your blood sugar levels down to normal where they belong without taking more medicines. Why do you need blood sugar levels that are normal, you may ask? Well, so that you can have great energy levels for the entire day, so that you can control food cravings and therefore avoid weight gain, especially as you grow older, and so you can have a generally healthy, longer life. All right, gut problems. And I tend to do videos especially for diabetics, but anyway, diabetics tend to have a higher tendency toward gut problems than other or non-diabetics generally in the population, right? I went to a medical conference last year, and I was actually surprised to hear this. I didn't necessarily realize diabetics suffered more from gut issues, but one of the big problems causing a lot of bowel problems in diabetics is the fact that they tend to have a higher chance for bowel bacterial overgrowth, right? So there are different aspects of bacterial overgrowth in the gut. There's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO as many people know it, where you just have an excessive amount of bacteria in the intestines. And when you have more than normal bacteria in the intestines, these bacteria produce gas. And when you have excess gas in the intestines, you just have more bloating and cramping and pain and discomfort, right? One of the problems that causes increased bacterial overgrowth in diabetics is the fact that there might be slowing of the intestines, right? So intestines, there's peristalsis that moves things along the intestines, but for this contraction of the gut wall, you have to have nerves that are functioning properly. And unfortunately, the longer somebody has diabetes, the more likely the nerves, if the diabetes was uncontrolled, the more likely those nerves are to get damaged. If you have damaged nerves, it means that the muscles don't get that trigger to work and contract and move things along. And so you have this slowing, we call it sometimes, well, slowing of the gut, and also this slowing can be even of the stomach. So this is gastroparesis, or just intestinal paresis, or ileus, which can be in different degrees, mild, moderate, severe. And slowing of the intestines means that the bacteria doesn't move out. It stays there, it stays with the food, it ferments it, and there's gas and cramping, okay? But in addition to this issue with just maybe malfunctioning nerves and slowing of the peristalsis and contraction, there is an ingredient that is increasingly common in foods, especially foods that are marketed to diabetics. And this ingredient is sugar alcohol, an increasing ingredient in diabetic friendly foods, as they put on the labels, right? Sugar alcohols, they are low calorie, which is one thing that's marketed to diabetics, because weight is a problem that is a struggle for many diabetics, and so they're marketed as low calorie, these foods, and also low glycemic index. The fortunate thing about sugar alcohols is that they don't get broken down very efficiently in the intestines, and anything that does not get broken down does not get absorbed, and if it does not get absorbed, it means that it's low or no calorie. You're not going to have a calorie if it doesn't get absorbed through you and get into your bloodstream. And so low calorie, like I said, my battery was giving me some problems. So it's marketed as low calorie, low glycemic index. And another interesting thing about sugar alcohols is that they might say, oh, not prone to giving you dental cavities, right? So they are promoted as being safe for the teeth, okay? But yes, they may be safe and beneficial to blood sugar levels. But what are these sugar alcohols causing? The sugar alcohols, because they are not broken down by the intestines, they stay in the intestines, and they can ferment. The bacteria work on them, they ferment, and they can cause enormous bloating. Different types of sugar alcohols cause different degrees of bloating and cramping and all these gut issues, right? Everybody's different. Everybody will have a different response to the different types of sugar alcohols, but suffice it to say that if you notice within half an hour to 1 hour of finishing a meal or a drink or a snack, and you just get this discomfort and cramping, then you need to look at this thing that you just had to eat or drink. See if it had an ingredient ending in all. Sugar alcohols include things like xylitol, maltitol, sorbitol, erythritol, OL, right? So like alcohol, these things end in OL. Now, one that doesn't end in OL is called isomalt. So any of these sugar alcohols, if you see them in the ingredient list, it means that this food may not be agreeing with you. Now, What does this mean? I mean, what are you supposed to eat? Because if so many things have sugar alcohols, what are you supposed to do? Well, this is an example of a case where the dose determines the poison. So it may be that you're able to tolerate a smaller amount without any problems, right? And then the higher the concentration, the higher amount, the more frequent you have these things, that is when you start having problems. What you have to do is test it. So you start seeing these ingredients. I'm not gonna say that sugar alcohols are totally bad, right? But if you have too much, then it will be bad for you because it's causing you problems. It's bad for you. Test it. Have small amounts. Also test different types of sugar alcohols, right? So look at the different labels, and if you, depending on if something has erythritol or sorbitol or maltitol, you just kind of have to do detective work, which can take a period of weeks or months, and see which ones you tolerate. And obviously the ones that cause the most symptoms in you, those are the ones that you're going to want to avoid, okay? Now, in terms of the things that tend to have, sugar alcohols, it's so many things, medicines even, right? A lot of medications, especially liquid medicines, to increase the palatability, have you swallow them, they will have sugar alcohols. Cold and cough medicines are ones that are very common with these sugar alcohols, sorbitol, maltitol, and so on, okay? Chewable medicines, chewable vitamins, they would tend to have sugar alcohols, again, to increase the palatability or the taste of these things, okay? A lot of diabetic friendly, I have to put friendly in quotations because friendly does not necessarily mean friendly, like I said, right? Pastries, especially some of these store-bought or store-brand rather pastries, even ice cream, lots of candy, even just candy in general, candy for children. I've seen sorbitol in candy that my son has had from school, right? So many things, gums, chewing gum tends to have a lot of these sugar alcohols, okay? So definitely look at all these things, assume the worst, like I always say. If it seems too good to be true, it might be too good to be true. If it says diabetic friendly or diabetes friendly and they might say aspartame free, then what else are they putting in? Because if it tastes sweet, it has something else in it, and that something else might be a sugar alcohol. I remember I had a patient once in the hospital, and he was in for an infected foot. We were giving him antibiotics for a long time, and he started to have diarrhea. And so one of the side effects from antibiotics taken for a long time is a bad type of diarrhea, and he had really bad diarrhea. And so we thought he was having this problem because he'd been on antibiotics for so long. We tested him. He was negative for this germ, this diarrhea causing germ, but he continued to have diarrhea. It so happens that around the same time as well, he was having high blood sugar levels. We just couldn't get this man's sugar under control. Overnight, high sugars. No matter how much insulin we gave him, he was just having so much high sugars. One day, I looked at his bedside table and saw many empty wrappers of Hershey's, a type of Hershey's chocolate bar. And of course, I looked at the ingredient list, and maltitol was high up on, it was probably the second or so ingredient, maltitol, if not the first. Maltitol is one of the common sugar alcohols in diabetic friendly sweets, but maltitol is probably the worst sugar alcohol because it has a very high glycemic index. It gets partially digested and absorbed into the bloodstream, so it's more likely to be digested than a sugar alcohol like erythritol. So maltitol is more easily digested than some of the other sugar alcohols, and if your ingredient has that one, then that might be the culprit with your bowel problems, your gut issues, compared to if something else that has erythritol, right? So look at the ingredient list. Another interesting thing is that you might be buying a sweetener, alternative sweetener like stevia or monk fruit, but then it actually is mixed with a sugar alcohol. Now, erythritol is the common sugar alcohol mixed with these other natural sweeteners, but for some people, erythritol might still cause bowel issues, even though it might be one of the more gentle one of the gentler sugar alcohols, right? So again, test. Your response may be different from somebody else's. The bottom line is that sugar alcohols are almost everywhere. They are increasing in use, in popularity. And for you to have an idea of if a sugar alcohol is in a food, look for OL at the end of whatever name is in the label. Sometimes they might put more than one different type of sugar alcohol, so you're gonna have to really look through. Unfortunately, the ingredient list is sometimes very tiny and it's very long. And so you might actually have to get out a magnifying glass or use your phone and expand so that you can see exactly what is in your food. If the ingredient list is too long, too tiny, if you can't read it, you might be better off just avoiding the food, okay? In terms of sugar alcohol, I don't necessarily think they are bad. I think the good thing about sugar alcohols is that they don't have that awful aftertaste that some of the other artificial sweeteners have, including aspartame and so on. But some of the natural sweeteners, stevia and monk fruit, to me they have an aftertaste which I really don't like. But the sugar alcohols tend to have a more pleasing taste, a closer taste to sugar. But like I said, because they taste good, because well, I didn't say this, but because they taste good, and they are marketed as friendly, you might actually be more likely to overeat whatever the food is that has these things, especially if it's some nice tasting candy. Those Hershey's candies that our patient was eating, turns out he was eating them every night, and that is why he was having such high blood sugars, especially at night. And that's why he was having so much diarrhea, because they tasted so good. He would eat 5, 6 at a time. And so I saw all these empty wrappers there, and so they market these things as friendly, and they still at the same time market them or design them to be addictive. So you're going to overeat these things thinking that, oh, you're fine, it's going to be safe for your diabetes, and that, oh, something else must be causing your sugar to be high. Maybe diabetes is worsening naturally, right? And so you're never going to think that it is these things that are causing the problem, right? So yep, gut issues, look at the foods you're eating. Sugar alcohols may be a culprit. Some people might have gut issues even with small doses, so evaluate your response to different foods. I hope you all found this video helpful, and I will see you on the next one. I actually am going to do a video about specifically sugar alcohols and things that you did not know about them, some interesting facts that you didn't know about them. So stay tuned for that video. Take care, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.